How's it, grade 11? So we're going to be continuing with the reduction formula. We're working from slides 56 to 61 from the trigonometry PowerPoint. So if we look at the first one, question A, this is example 5. Question A, we've got cos 240 times sine 315 times tan 120 all over sine 150 tan 210 and then cos 225. Okay, so I'm going to work a little bit quicker today, just to show you how quick we can do this without doing the whole, me showing you the other notes that we've made before and stuff like that. So just so we know, I'm just going to do the cast diagram on the side here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to number my angles, which quadrants they're in. So 240 is in the third, 315 is in the fourth, 120 is in the second, 150 is in the second, 210 is in the third, and 225 is in the third. Okay, so we now have to reduce these angles. So cos in the third is negative, so we know that this is going to be negative cos. Then how do we reduce this one? I say 240 minus 180 because it's in the third quadrant. 240 minus 180 gives us 60. So we got cos 60 there, multiplied by sine in the fourth is negative. How do I reduce an angle in the fourth? I say 360 minus that, and we get 45. Times by tan in the second is negative. How do we reduce that? We say 180 minus, and we get 60 degrees. Okay, moving on to the denominator. Sine in the second is positive, so this would just be sine. We reduce that by saying 180 minus that, and we get 30, times by tan in the third is positive, and we reduce this one by saying 210 minus 180, and we get 30, times by cos in the third is negative. To reduce that, we say 225 minus 180. Okay. What I'm going to do now, just to make our life easier, we've got a negative times a negative is a positive times a negative. So up at the top, we have a negative over. At the bottom, we have a positive times a negative gives us a negative. So negative divided by negative is a positive. So I know the whole thing is going to be positive, so now I can ignore those signs. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce these special angles. 60, 45, and 30 are all your special angles. So remember, we're going to use our little triangles. So if let me just try and find space here so that you guys can see. Let me do it over here. So we've got 60, 30, 1, 2, root 3, and the other one is 45. We've got 45, 45, 1, 1, root 2. Okay, so cos of 60 is x over r, so that's going to be 1 over 2. Multiplied by sine 45 is y over r, so that is 1 over root 2. Tan 60 is y over x, so that's root 3 over 1. Okay. I'm just going to do the denominator like this. So sine of 30 is going to be y over r, so that's 1 over 2. Tan of 30 is going to be y over x, so we've got 1 over root 3. And then cos of 45 is going to be x over r, so we've got 1 over root 2. Okay, so let's work out what this one gives us. We've got 1 times root 3 is just root 3, over 2 times root 2 times 1 is 2 root 2, divided by 1 times 1 times 1 is 1 over. This is going to give us 2 times root 3, and I'm just going to keep it like this, grade 11. So I'm not going to try and simplify that. You're going to see, because I'm going to cancel things now. So root 3 over 2 root 2. Tip and times this, and we get 2 root 3 root 2 all over 1. The root 2 will cancel with the root 2. The 2 will cancel with the 2. And then we're left with root 3 times root 3, which is just going to give us 3. And that's our final answer for that one. So as you can see, I went through it very quickly like that. And that's probably the level that I want you guys to get to, where you can just list your quadrants, reduce the angles. They normally come out to be special angles, and then you can just reduce your special angles into what they are, and then cancel. Okay, moving on to the next one. Question B. We've got cos squared 330 minus sine squared 210 all over tan squared 135 times sine 90. Okay, so let's list what quadrants we got here. 330 is in the fourth quadrant. 210 is in the third. 135 is in the second. Now 90 degrees is not in a quadrant. It's on your axes, okay? So I'm not going to put anything for that because we know what that is. Just remember it's your special angle. So let's have a look. Just do a cast diagram here. Okay. Cos in the fourth is positive, so that's just cos squared. How do we reduce that angle? If it's in the fourth quadrant, we say 360 minus that angle, and we get 30. Minus. Now, sine in the third is negative, but because it's squared, a negative times a negative is a positive. So don't get confused with this negative, because that negative I just brought down. If this wasn't a squared, I would have to put a bracket there and say negative sine, okay? But because it's squared, I don't have to do that negative. It's just a positive, and we are left with sine squared. To reduce that, I say 210 minus the 180, and we get 30. All over tan in the second is negative, but because it's squared, it's going to be a positive. So tan squared, we reduce this angle by saying 180 minus 135. We get 45 degrees times. Now, this one I'm going to reduce immediately. It's a special angle. So sine of 90, if you go back to your notes, you'll see is 1. Okay. So let me just draw up our little triangles here. We've got 60, 30, 1, 2, root 3. And we've got a 45. 1, 1, root 2. Okay, so cos of 30. Cos is x over r, so that is root 3 over 2. But it's squared. minus sine of 30 is y over r, so that is 1 over 2, and it's squared. Divided by tan of 45 is y over x, so that is 1 over 1, and it's squared. Okay, let's see what we've got up at the top. Root 3 squared is 3, over 2 squared is 4, minus 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, all over 1. I don't have to write that. So 3 minus 1 is 2 over 4. 2 over 4 is a half. And we've solved. Okay, last example. Question C. We've got sine 15 degrees, sine 195 degrees, minus cos squared 345 degrees. Okay, so let's label where these angles are. This is in the first quadrant. 195 is in the third quadrant. And 345 is in the fourth quadrant. Okay. So, as you can see, we've got an angle in the first quadrant. That is fine. That is what we want to get. We want to get that acute angle. So I'm just going to leave that one as sine 15. Okay. This one here, sine in the third is negative. So we've got negative sine. To reduce that 195, we say 195 minus 180, and we get 15 degrees. Minus cos in the fourth is positive, so we've got here cos squared. To reduce that, I say 360 minus 345, and we get 15 degrees. Okay, so this times this will give us negative sine squared. Okay, because we have a positive times a negative gives us a negative. Sine times sine will give us the sine squared, and it's 15 degrees. Grade 11s, please do not say 15 times 15 gives us 225. Okay, we are not multiplying the angles. We are multiplying the trig functions. Okay, so sine times sine will give us the sine squared, and the 15 stays the same. Then minus cos squared 15 degrees. Okay, now just going back to yesterday's lesson, I showed you two identities. The first identity was that tan theta is equal to sine theta over cos theta. That was the first one. The second one I showed you was that sine squared theta plus cos squared theta is equal to 1. So this looks very similar to this, okay? Except we've got these negatives. So if I take out that negative, and we've got now sine squared 15 plus cos squared 15. Okay, and that is what this is. Sine squared of an angle plus cos squared of that same angle is equal to 1. And that's what we have here. Sine squared 15 plus cos squared 15. So that is equal to minus 1. And that is our solution. Okay, so grade 11s, what I would like you to do is exercise 7.4, numbers 4, 5, and 6D for me, please. Thank you.